Hello and welcome. My name's Meter. In this series, our goal is to take the greatest runner you've never heard of and demonstrably prove that greatness. To take their name from unspoken because nobody knows who the F they are, to unspoken because their achievements are too great to be summed up in words. This is Ineffable.
It's me, Mario!
Hey, look, it's Finnii. Wait, you don't know who Finnii is? Well, fair enough. But if you like Super Mario 64 speedrunning, well, you need to know who Finnii is. They're like really good. I mean, I agree. If someone's that good, then you should have heard of them. So let's talk about them. Finnii is primarily a Super Mario 64 speedrunner. Their first run submitted to speedrun.com, or SRC, was April 2nd, 2020. It was in the 16-star category and played on Wii VC. The timing came in at 19 minutes, 3 seconds. There's a note on the now obsolete run. Mod note: you don't need to submit milliseconds. Fair enough. At the time, the Virtual Console World Record was 15 minutes, 18 seconds. A difference of 3 minutes, 45 seconds, so milliseconds don't really matter at that point. 2 days later, he submitted a 10-minute, 8-second 1-star run on VC. And 11 days after that, a 70-star run on VC. As of September 21, 2022, Finnii has submitted 72 runs across 2 games and 13 categories, so I won't touch on every single one, but let's do the highlights. Within 5 days of his first submission of 1903 16 star, he had taken over a minute off of his time. And by June, he was sub 17. In that June 6, 2020 upload of a 1653, his notes state, "I'm finally done with this category." Less than a month later, Finnii was back running. And by August 31st, he had a sub 16 in the 16-star category. At the end of 2020, Finnii had competitive times in 70-star, 16-star, 1-star, and 0-star, as well as a few extended categories and some new Super Mario Bros. Wii. And then we changed calendars. January 1st, 2021, Finnii did a 0-star run in 6 minutes, 58 seconds, beating 360 Chrism, we'll call him Chris, by 25 seconds. That one time save makes up over a quarter of all time saved since Paradox Carl's initial world record in 2012. Only 3 people have ever held the 0-star world record on VC: Carl, Chris, and now Finnii. Chris was just 1 month from holding the title for 6 full years when Finnii took over. And 5 days later, he had the 1-star world record. On the 17th of January, he got a really good run going, but lag caused him to fall short of his main goal in 16-star, and he was forced to settle with a 15:34 PB, already 3.5 minutes faster than his first PB. The note on that submission reads, "Yep, lag. Practice pays off. I'm done with this category for a long time." Section 2. Okay, you can have some milliseconds. Exactly 2 months later, Finnii was back running 16. And on 5/17, he landed a 15:17, which is a cool coincidence. Oh, and it was also a world record. Finnii now held 3 concurrent main category world records on a single platform, becoming only the 10th runner in history to do so across any platform. Finnii would lower the 1-star record 2 more times, In July 2021, Finnii took the 16-star No LBLJ world record from Green Suiji with a 1542. Well, I should be more specific, because the mod message says 15, 42, 233 milliseconds. Retimed using YT frame timer. And after he had just kicked the millisecond habit too. Suiji took world record back 4 months later, and Finnii took it right back just a month after that, 3 days before Christmas. And on Christmas Day 2021, Suiji took the same world record back with a 1528, and that's where the record still sits today. 2022 started off with Tag 609 taking the 16-star world record in the VC category by 2 seconds. But from then on, the year has been very good to Finnii. He lowered his 16-star time from a 1517 all the way to 1459, becoming just the 7th person to ever get a sub-15 run in the 16-star category, reclaiming the world record and re-establishing his stance as a world record holder in 3 main categories concurrently. He would go on to lower it 2 more times since then, and now sits at a 1452 that he got back in July, the 3rd fastest time in the world across all platforms to this day. Also in July, Finnii lowered the 1-star world record further, and we know what it means when Finnii lowers the 1-star record. That's right, he takes another category. This time, it was the 70-star world record. He then lowered this time even further on the 25th. Both of these 70-star records have notes that denote the milliseconds, as they should. Just to wrap up the year through September 22nd, 2022, which is the date I'm writing this on, Finnii has been running New Super Mario Bros. Wii and has a tied world record in World 1 any percent 1-F single level run. Section 3. Hey, stop hoarding the milliseconds. Combining the standards of all platforms, Finnii ranks top 20 0-star, top 5 1-star, top 3 16-star, and top 12 70-star. Other top 10 times include 8th in 31-star, 2nd in 15-star, 2nd in 16-star No LBLJ, 6th in PAL 16-star. If we look at the 13 and a half years since the first VC world record, Finnii has reigned for almost 8% of it, a total of 1,743 combined days, or 4.8 out of almost 54 years when you put all the categories together. Not bad for someone who just started running in 2020 and racks up 4 world record reigns every calendar day that passes. He accounts for 10% of all 1-star time saves and over 25% of 0-star time saves. If you combined all time saved across all main categories that Finnii has held a world record in, he accounts for 5.7% of all time saved on SM64 Virtual Console for 70 stars or less. 11 total main category world records. Nearly 10% of all VC world records come from Finnii. Second most on VC behind only Sanjiano. Tied for 15th for most all-platform combined world records, right beside Zaya. 76 total 1x or more world record holders, top 20% all time. As of July 16th, 2022, Finnii became just the 3rd runner in history to hold 4 main category world record titles concurrently on a single platform. The only runner to do so in over a decade, and the only runner doing so actively, as in right now. In fact, Finnii is the only runner to be holding even 3 at the same time right now. Hell, aside from Kano, and if you say you don't know who Kano is, I am going to lose my mind. Finnii is the only other runner to hold even 2 world records concurrently right now. You know what nobody has ever done though? Held all 5 main categories on a single platform. Finnii though is 120 star world record away, and He's currently ranked 11th. Finnii has the second longest cumulative reign with 3 category world records within the same platform with 426 days. As of 9/22/22, Kano has the record with 578. This would be beaten on February 21st, 2023, if he holds it that long. The other 2 runners to hold 4 were Shigeru and Sanjiano. Shigeru held 120, 70, 16, and 1 on N64 for 8 days before being taken to 3 world records and then down to 2 world records 3 days after that. Sanjiano achieved this twice. Both times they held 120, 70, 16, and 1-star world records. The first time for 24 days, then went down to a low of 2 world records, and then back up to 4 again in 23 days. This time holding them all for a very fitting 64 days, before losing the 120 world record to some guy named Siglemic, and then 8 days later lost the 70-star to that same rando. Sicko then took 16-star 4 days later, and all of that was 2010, 2011, with the longest single reign being 64 days. Well, as of September 19th, 2022, Finnii passed that. Sanjiano had a combined 98 days between their 2 runs, which Finnii will hit on October 22nd, 2022. Section 4. Milliseconds to spare. Alright, let's talk about it. If he's so good, why haven't you heard about him before? I think the simplest reason is because of the bias against Virtual Console. To explain this properly, we'd need a whole history lesson, but both Drogi and Simply already did that for us, so if you aren't aware of the differences between platforms and why N64s, where game-wide world records have been set for decades despite being a technically slower console, please check out the videos in the description. For those who already know, or are willing to take my word for it, let's run through it ultra fast. There are 3 platforms, N64, VC, and Emulator. Since 2010, MU has maintained their own unique leaderboard, and in 2012, VC broke off onto their own too. Of the 3 platforms, N64 is where the majority of the most competitive runners play. The main reasons are control, precision, VC lag, N64 lag, and emulation imperfections. I'd throw in VC processing speed since it can run at 0.12 frames faster per second than N64 can, and the load times being faster for VC than N64 as well. These all have an effect on the gameplay in a way that directly affects the accuracy and speed in which a runner can move the Mario. It just feels more authentic, and that's just how it's always been. Have never sat well with me personally, as those are circumstantial and opinionated and have no bearing on the mechanisms of the game and speedrunning, and it's just not interesting to me. For those reasons, and more, I don't mind that there are 3 platforms and each of them have their own leaderboard, and I'm very glad to see that the narrative has shifted from discounting runners who are running on anything except N64 to understanding that no matter what console you're running on, it's the same game with some slight differences. Even when time, statistics, innovation, and execution are all there though, there still seems to be some disconnect between those who run on N64 and those who run on any other console. Suffice it to say, Sanjiano, Finnii, Nebula, Sagotu M64, Kymatics, Ayla64, they should all get the credit they deserve. The previous 120-star VC world record holder Callie does get recognition, very well deserves that. Callie's a modern-day Hachimitsu, and a damn fine runner, but it feels that this recognition only happened in earnest on the switch over to N64. These players are demonstrating amazing skill, regardless of the platform that they're playing on. And if you've dismissed all the length of run statistics I've gone over today because you say there's no competition on VC or emulator, consider this In 2017, SM64 16-star emulator had 54 active players, the most on SRC by a large margin, and about a third of all SM64 active runners were in that hyper-specific category. The next closest category was the 8th most active, 70-star N64 with 23 active players. Now, times have changed. That was 5 years ago now, so who knows where it stands now. Emulator, you can also say, is where a lot of people start out and then they make the switch over because emulator is much more accessible. And I love that about the community, that we can have a way that people can break in with very low barrier to entry. And that's what I really love. None of the VC categories have been sitting around for insane amounts of time without being beaten in their world records, though. 0 stars the longest at a year. Everything else is less than that by months. But 1 star in N64 was taken over a year ago now by Kano, which is super comparable to a 0-star world record. And hell, Ouija's 70-star run hasn't been beaten in a year either because the man's cracked out of his mind. Regardless, let's move past the competition standpoint. Most people agree that the games are different enough to warrant 3 unique platform leaderboards. But how can we talk about any given competition time in relation to a time on another platform? Because clearly there's differences between these platforms. So for that, we need a way to compare apples to apples, mushrooms to mushrooms, if you will. We know VC has faster processing speed and little to no lag, so let's adjust Finnii's times. Luckily, Alaris posted a spreadsheet detailing this and broke it down in great detail, so here are the conversion times. I had to calculate the 1 and 0 myself. We'll pop them up on stream here, and VC, clearly much faster. MU has some faster tendencies as well. Okay, so now let's adjust Finnii's times. Finnii now has in 70-star a 48.34, which ties him for 42nd all-time after adding in the adjusted emulator times. So I added 27.83 seconds to all emulator times and then put them into the rankings as well. It put Finnii at 42nd. Fair. His 70-star had a death in Rainbow Ride. Snowman's Land was rough to say the least, and he missed HMC box jump, quite a few less than ideal Tippy stars. His movement was pretty poor by the time he got up to Tippy, and of course poor for Finnii. All times that I'm going to discuss here are adjusted for N64 comparison. 48.38 it would be his current time, but his sum of best would still be a 46.50, and world record's a 46.58, so if he played perfectly, which obviously we never play perfectly, but if he did, he could land world record. He feasibly could land world record is what I'm saying. 16-star. Right now he's 3rd in the world. He's one of the few people who have ever gotten a sub 15. He would no longer have a sub 15. He would have a 15.12.41, or he would be 13th. He didn't really have any big mistakes in his run. You guys have been watching it all along. There's a couple of small flubs in LLL. That's really some of the bigger stuff I can point out. His sum of best would become a 14.57, which would put him 7th in the world with Tag. Right now, Tag is 2nd, and he's right behind Finnii on VC. So, you could assume that if Tag is behind on VC, that maybe Finnii would still be ahead on N64. Who knows? Tag has put in more time on N64 now. Neither here nor there. He would still have a sub 15 on his sum of best, but he would still be top 15 in the world. 1 star. He would be 10th all time. 7 minutes, 26.95 seconds. 0 star. He'd be 24th all time. And you have to add in the MU times as well, 3.43 seconds added to all MU times, and then add those into the standings. So 16, 1, and 0, he would be top 25 in all 3. And then 70, he'd be top 50, and that is an insanely competitive category. So incredible. All very impressive times, and look at the names that he's near. Lunar Jump, Simply, Blue Ball, Cheese, Tag. These guys are titans of the game. Some of them have been playing for more than 8 years. Finnii's been playing for 2. This guy has massive potential on top of everything that they've already accomplished, and I think that's pretty amazing. I think that deserves people knowing their name. On top of this, we haven't even considered the fact that VC does get lag. It even freezes sometimes, and it has harder controls that are less precise, especially for movement. And worst of all, it'll just drop input sometimes at no fault of the runner. It's easy to say that, quote, VC is faster because of lag and load, but it's kind of dismissive to the other side of the equation that I believe should also be accounted for. But how the heck do you account for random input drops and harder controls? That's not something you can really do, so it leaves everything very gray. It's easy to do the math. It's much harder to do this impossible math and kind of take everything into consideration. But even if we only add time to offset for the VC advantages and do nothing at all to offset for the VC disadvantages, Finnii is still demonstrably in the top tier of runners when comparing times, number of world records, length of reigns, concurrency of reigns, general movement of the Mario, execution of tricks, execution of routes, willingness to put in the time. The only place he doesn't compare is in the recognition. And I fully admit, I didn't know who Finnii was either just a few months ago. I mean, I dismissed emulator and VC as second rate. I hadn't looked into the actual facts before. I was just parroting things that I had heard and read on forums. I hadn't even imagined the possibility that there was more to consider, or that someone playing on these platforms could not only be good, but be fully worth mentioning when discussing the best in the world right now. I found Finnii on a spreadsheet, an outlier in statistics most don't track, surrounded by gold. I found Finnii at the top of every main category leaderboard for Virtual Console, closer to holding all the gold on a single platform than anyone has ever been. Yet his name is virtually unspoken. That's why I made this video, because I don't know. And there's a good chance you don't know either. But you should. Of course, you don't have to take my word for it. Do your own research. Tune in to a Finnii stream. Watch one of the world record run VODs. In fact, I'll leave you with the rest of this one in just a moment. I have done my very best here today to explain my reasonings, my conclusions, and why I felt it was important to spend, since September, making this video. It's been months, and I've been happy to do it. But I think I'll always feel like my words and my numbers are falling just short of ideal. And it's not because I used them wrong, or because I put them in the wrong order, but because I believe that the legend of Finnii is truly ineffable.